Mhm. Now, I've been documenting quite a few lawsuits, and I was wanting to use the judicial system of the United States. Now, I'm thinking I'm going to have a lot of money for all the police and sheriff's departments that decided right now that they were just going to make up false accusations that were not enforceable in the jurisdiction. Now, I'm going to want my sons. Yeah. I'm going to want my victims' resources and the victims' funds. Yeah. And then there's that restitution where you were going to pay. You're going to make me pay restitution for my wife that lied to you. Now, there's what's known as making hay. Yes. Are you familiar with hay? How are you? Hey, you're a giant. Oh. Now, let's say I wanted to buy some land today. I was watching the show Maverick this morning, and they didn't want any homesteaders on that show. Yes. But I'd like to know all the families in Clallam County that homesteaded. See, I think that you're intentionally arresting me all these different times. Yes. Because I actually have ownership of a large amount of assets. Now, it used to be said that I'm really, really very wealthy. Yes. But when you bribe the police and sheriff's departments to make up false accusations against you, yes, then you put the individual in jail and say they're bipolar and schizophrenic. Right. And then you refuse to admit the evidence exonerating me of any wrongdoing. It looks like there's a conspiracy against me having my actual assets. Now, for those, there's sheriffs right now. Why don't you get me your assets? Because today we're going to make some hay. Ooch. Now, these giant individuals that say, oh my gosh, there's a bug right there. Oh, did you see that? No. Giants. Did you like to load the hands? Ouch. When you were going to teach them a lesson. Right. The bigger the fist you have, the more powerful you are. Ouch. Being on each other right now. Now, for the giant individuals that like to make hay, that have the giant hands of the United States, I have strong hands because of the amount of weight that I did carry when I was a lot younger. Yes. And I'm going to want the hands of every giant in Clallam County. Ooch. And then I'm going to want the property ownership of every individual in this county since you homestead it right now. See, there's this idea that all the arrests that I have experienced, yes, is because somebody doesn't want me to have my inheritance. Yeah. Now, sheriff, do you have any knowledge of any assets that this county has been bribed to keep me from? Because I'm going to want all the assets of the county today. Yes. And then there's Jefferson County right now. Why don't you get me the sheriff? Because when you make up fraudulent accusations of crimes that you cannot be charged with, right? Because you do not have the jurisdiction of that crime, because you can't separate the restraint provisions from the actual laws of this great nation. Now, what assets am I being kept from? Yes, because of you being bribed, thinking that you could just make up fake accusations against innocent American citizens. What assets are you keeping me from? See, I gave you the evidence that I wasn't in Jefferson County. I was making videos on June 16th of 2017. Yes, and I was emailing that day. But when the prosecuting attorney's office removed the restraint provisions of the protection order, yes, and decided to charge me with cyber stalking instead of 2 counts of violating the restraint provisions of the protection order, what assets are you keeping me from? Now, well, I think it's worse than grand larceny. Let's say you committed the crime of treason. Yes. And you were bribed into thinking that you could do whatever you want. And you made up a 2 count criminal complaint that happened to be a lie. Yes. Well, you said I emailed somebody in the Brennan School District when I didn't. Yes. And then you separated the restraint provisions of the protection order. Yes. So as to be able to charge me with a different offense. Yes. Than the offenses that are allowed in the protection order. Now, I'm really wanting to sue you right now. Now, since I wasn't in Jefferson County, yes, I wasn't in Sequim, Washington, yes, and since I didn't violate the conditions of the protection order that you issued in 2011, what money are you keeping me from? We're going to make a little hay today. Now, let's see. My wife kidnapped my sons on July 2nd of 2011. Yes. She ran into the court 5 days later, yes, lying about domestic violence and child abuse. You issued a protection order where she ran down to the welfare office committing welfare fraud, yes, because you didn't have jurisdiction of the crime. And then you reissued the protection order for the false accusation of violating the restraint provisions when I contacted Healthy Families of Clallam County. Yes. Now, my sons have been in the custody of my wife for 8 years and 3 months because of your fraud, your conspiracy, your treason, your kidnapping, and what assets?